home virtual ComiXology panel. Yay!
Yay!
So we have a bunch of fabulous creators joining us to talk about their ComiXology originals, create our own books, and beyond. So let's get into it. First, we have a man whose name is after my own heart, Chip Zdarsky.
Hi.
Who as the writer of Afterlift with Jason Loo. Wave, Jason.
This is true.
Hi.
And nominated for an Eisner. I believe the voting ends tonight. Hopefully everyone's voted for them. And then we have Claudia Aguirre from Lost on Planet Earth. Say hello, Claudia.
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. And then we have Curt Pires, writer and creator of Youth.
Hola. Hello.
And then we have also Johnny Christmas, who is the creator of Crema with artist Dante Luis.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
And last but not least, we have Jeremy Holt from Virtually Yours.
Hello.
Ooh.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so how's everyone's pandemic?
Surviving.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
What's
Hanging on.
everyone's favorite thing to do while they're stuck at home?
Cry.
Cry.
A lot of crying. A marked increase in crying, I'd say.
I'm starting out with the real upbeat question.
Yeah.
Is there Claudia, what have you been filling your time with?
Well, there's eating, there's crying, there's just looking at the outside from my window. That's about it. That's pretty boring.
Yeah.
No, we can do much actually, so that's what we got.
Yeah, I feel blessed. I have the nice Southern California sun, but yeah, I'm ready to go to a Comic-Con in person.
Oof, no, not even on the best of days.
Oh, so Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Non-comic book question for you. What's been your best Zoom video chat during quarantine?
I think it's a tie between having a Zoom date, which was interesting,
Ooh.
and helping a friend of mine, everybody might know him, Mandy Patinkin with tech support. I've been his tech support guy for like 10 years now, so it's now that he's kind of hunkered down, he calls me a lot. So, but it's fun.
So sorry. Was it a first date Zoom?
Yeah,
Wow.
lasted 7 hours.
Wow.
Nice.
That's like a marathon.
That's like someone staying over.
Basically, yeah.
Spending the night.
I think I went to sleep at like 4 a.m.
Wow.
But since I'm working remote, I can sleep in, so it kind of worked out.
Fantastic.
There you go. So was there a second date?
Yeah, we are now dating.
Nice.
Congrats.
Been an
That's
interesting.
amazing.
I mean, I recently got out of a pretty bad relationship. I was quarantined with an ex for about 3 months, and I just moved to this new apartment, so I'm living alone for the first time in my entire life. So it's
Wow.
odd.
It's quite the upheaval.
Yeah, it's quarantine was hard, but living with someone that doesn't like you anymore, it was
Oh, man.
pretty bad. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that can be tense.
moving on.
We're keeping it
Hey,
up.
it's good you got out.
It's just as low as I was, it's just up from here. So it's been great.
This will be the most upbeat comic book panel ever.
Oh boy.
So, Jeremy, since we're talking about dating, tell us a little bit about Virtually Yours.
Okay, Virtually Yours is basically a story that is basically a version of a rom-com that I wanted to write, which is challenging because it's like reinventing the wheel. So there are some tropes that I needed to include as far as two people meeting kind of under a false pretense and then kind of living through that sort of quasi-lie and then having to rebound from it and be honest with each other. But I wanted to make it interesting, so I created a dating app. And it's really an app around people who don't want to date. So you sign up for it, and you basically have a virtual boyfriend or girlfriend, and they provide all of the evidence of you being in a relationship without actually having to be in one. So beyond that, I really was actually inspired by Spike Jonze's film Her, specifically with Joaquin Phoenix's job as a greeting card writer. So I kind of thought about what is it like at a company like this for the person on the other end who's being that virtual date. So it was really fun kind of to reverse engineer a company and kind of think about, all the things you have to do, but virtually, and you don't meet the person, and there's a lot of anonymity for safety reasons. So kind of thinking about all those fail-safes was kind of a fun challenge.
And tell us more about Elizabeth Beals, your artist on that.
Yeah, Elizabeth is amazing. This is her first full-length book. I think she mostly has done covers. She was exactly the person I wanted to work with because she doesn't skip on a single detail. And as a slice of life rom-com, she also has an amazing eye for fashion, which to make this work, in my opinion, it has to feel present day, it has to feel contemporary. And everything from hairstyles to what shoes someone's wearing, what phone they're carrying, all of the locations. There were a lot of real locations that she brought to life, which was really great to see.
And great. What's your takes place in New York, right?
Yes.
What's your favorite place in New York?
It's a good question. I haven't been there in 5 years now. I lived there for 5 years, and I think the Museum of Natural History is probably a place I love to go, especially the Ocean Life exhibit. Bergen Street Comics was my favorite shop when it was around. So I got to actually have fun with it, and I wrote a version of Brooklyn where some of these places that don't exist anymore do exist. So Bergen Street Comics I resurrected. There was a Brooklyn location for a bar I loved called Beauty Bar that doesn't exist in Park Slope anymore, so I brought that back. And then I got to just kind of reinvent a version of New York that I miss.
That's cool. Well, let's move on to Mr. Curt Pires. Curt Pires, how are you doing, sir?
I'm all right. I'll be better once I'm off this weird video chat thing.
What's so weird about it?
I don't like it, man. It's weird being able to see yourself while you're talking. I don't even like FaceTiming. I only FaceTime with my brother, really.
What is it?
But this is how much I love you, Chip. I'm here doing this weird video promotion for you.
Oh, that Chip. Sorry, I thought it was. Fine.
I love you too, but
Yeah.
we got to go on a 7-hour online date before we can we can really get to know one another.
I'll let you guys figure that out after this video chat. Curt, so tell us about Youth.
So Youth is a book we've been working on for a while that we just sort of had a big, cool launch for. It sort of is my take on the teen superhero comic. I guess like we said in sort of the press release, I didn't really feel like teen superhero comics felt like they're being made for or reflective of sort of modern kids or even anything close to modern. So I kind of made one with that in mind. The two main characters are a queer couple. The rest of the characters are sort of all on the varying parts of the spectrum of sexuality, and it's pretty much what if terrible, chemically unbalanced kids got superpowers. Sort of like, I don't know, people's the best way I've heard described is brutal and beautiful. I like that. Someone told me that, tweeted that at me, and I think it's super dark, but it's got like a lot of heart to it. So I don't know. I just wanted to make a superhero comic that felt unsanitized.
Can't hear you, Chip.
Can't hear you either.
Sorry,
Oh.
I'm muted because my cat was mewing. I'm just waiting for my cat to like crawl up right here. Tell us a little bit more about your artistic team on the book.
Yeah, so the art on the book is by Alex Diodo, or Diodo, I'm not really sure how to say it. And another name I'm not sure how to say is D. Kniffy. But they're a great team. We did an image book together, and I've worked on them with a bunch of stuff over the sort of like the last 5 years. So just a couple of guys who are really great at what they do, and I really trust them and have a great working relationship with them. So we just keep churning out cool stuff, and they're not tired of me yet. So hopefully we'll keep it going.
That's every writer's dream, for their artists to not be tired of them yet.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, let's move on. Claudia, Lost on Planet Earth.
Hi. Yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, Lost on Planet Earth is a story about the choices you make in a society that's utopian, but actually really reactionary and particularly set on its ways and very conservative, and especially when it comes to what people should do and the paths they must walk to be successful. And this path is usually get into the interplanetary fleet and make like this military service. So everyone tries to get in and live adventures in space, like very Star Trek. The thing is, Basil Miranda is our protagonist, and she's trying to be the first, youngest, most wonderful captain that the fleet's ever had. And it turns out that at some point she asked herself, is this what I want? Is this what I want to do with my life? Does this make me happy? So it's a complete change in her demeanor, and she freaks out so much that she ends up, blowing up her chance to be the captain. And that's where the story starts. It's pretty much about asking yourself what you want in life and your choices and where they take you, and where these choices actually are make sense, because our choices sometimes don't make any sense, but we need them to end up in the place we will be happy with each other. It's pretty good.
Can't hear you. Is your cat again?
Yes, it's my cat again.
Ah.
I tried to put Lulu outside, but she
Does he want to be on a screen?
What?
Does he want to be on a screen? Like, you can just bring him up if you
Put
want.
the cat on the screen, man.
Just
Yeah.
incorporate the cat.
Yeah. Just bring him.
When
Let
she
it
comes
happen.
by again, I'll incorporate the cat. Lulu and Naughty.
Give him what he wants.
That's what the people want.
the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Claudia, tell us about your co-creators on Lost on Planet Earth.
Well, I've been working with Max Bisagio for a bunch of different comics, and I love her. She's one of my besties. We're working with Zach Sam, who we also brought into the team, and Joe Corallo. I think it's pronounced that way. We made this little team called Death Rattle, in which we will make comics as a team, and it's been really, really fun so far. I love working with them. So they're like, it's very organic. we just bounce ideas at each other, and it's really easy to communicate with them. They're all amazing people.
Cool. And so since Jason made some noise and the camera moved to him, Jason,
Oh, sorry.
tell us about Afterlift. Jason Loo, people, on the mic.
Yes. So Afterlift is pretty much a ride share to hell. Actually, throughout the whole Afterlife. I think Chip could say more about that since he's.
Oh no, I like this. I like this. I'll talk about the art. You talk about the writing.
I just went along with the ride, not expecting what's going on until like issue after issue. It follows the driver Janice Chen, who picks up a demon who hires her to deliver a soul to hell. And the plot zigzags as Janice tries to save this soul. Susanna is her name, and she tries to redeem her and bring her back home. But things are not as easy as they zigzag through purgatory and other aspects of the afterlife. Which I'm not going to spoil, but it's what Chip has done, or what we both have done. We've tried to combine all the different beliefs of the afterlife and try to amalgamate it as all religions were right about the afterlife. Is that right, Chip? Did I get it right?
You are way off. I don't know what book you were reading.
Yeah.
No, that was perfect.
So, Mr. Zdarsky, tell us about the art.
It's all right.
How did you and Jason Loo meet?
We met because I started a studio called the Royal Academy of Illustration and Design back in 2002, and you were an intern in 2004, was it?
Yes.
Around there in our last year. And it was super evident even back then that Jason was going to be a star. I've never seen anyone with that work ethic in all of comics, and watching him after that period with his own book, Pitiful Human Lizard, which he wrote and illustrated. It's spectacular. It's it's pure comics. It's he does amazing gestural work, amazing storytelling, and yeah. So I asked him to come work on this book, and he's just so damn good at his job. It's crazy. After working in the Marvel machine, you kind of get used to artists kind of not hitting deadlines and maybe kind of cutting corners here and there to get the work done, which we all do. I've done it as well, but Jason is just so focused. And there, forget it. We got a cat.
It's Lulu. Lulu,
Where's the cat? Hey.
How old is Lulu?
Lulu's 10.
10?
Hello.
Oh,
Hello. Bye-bye, Lulu. She muted me at the pound, so it's her fault. She picked me.
Yeah.
Does Lulu have any questions?
So, in what ways is...
Before you go on, I just want to say too, our colorist Paris, Aline, is amazing, and Aditya Bidikar did the lettering as well. And I don't think I've ever worked with such a professional team that kind of rose to the challenge of my bad script.
Yeah, Paris has made my scribbles into professional looking masterpieces. So
yeah,
hats off to Paris.
Yeah.
And Allison O'Toole, who edited the book, did a great job also.
Yeah, Allison came aboard because she edited Jason's previous work. You like that? and I knew her from around the Toronto comic scene, and yeah, she's awesome. She just kept everything on track, and I always felt like I was one step behind everyone, which I was.
So how is Chip? So tell us how in what ways is Jason a better artist than you?
Oh yeah, there's many. His speed, first and foremost. I've never seen anyone produce such quality work on such tight deadlines. And he gets better as he goes. Like when we first started working on it, and I told him what the concept was, I felt bad because cars usually aren't everyone's favorite thing to draw. And Jason immediately started practicing his cars, and he would send me these drawings. I'm like, oh, those are really good cars. And then like a week later, he'd send me more, and they're like 10 times better. Like he just keeps getting better, and it's very angering as an artist who feels stuck, as I am, to witness that. Yeah, it's very upsetting.
Well, it's like I had to like make sure that like my skills had to be at the same level as like the name of Chip Zdarsky. so if like people were gonna see my work like attached to his name, it's like, oh, I got to make sure this is gonna look good.
Yeah, Chip Zdarsky
awesome.
Means quality. Sure.
That's what I think.
No one's ever said that.
Johnny Christmas,
Hey,
the man, the myth, the legend. How are you doing, sir?
you say so. Good.
So Crema.
Mm-hmm. Crema. So Crema is a haunted romance that's based partially in New York and partially in Brazil on a haunted coffee plantation. And it stars Esme, who is a barista / caffeine addict. And she, when she drinks too much coffee, she learned when she was a little kid that she starts to see ghosts. And being an outsider, she doesn't really have a lot of friends. So her best friend is a ghost. So she's living her life as a barista, and the coffee shop that she works at, that she loves very much, is possessed by this ghost that wants her to, take this mysterious letter to this coffee plantation in Brazil, where their beans are from. Now enter Yara, who's the owner of the coffee shop and the coffee, farm that provides the beans. And Yara doesn't feel unseen. Everyone sees Yara. Like she's like the it person that, like, when she walks into a room, everyone's magnetized. So this unlikely pairing, they fall in love, and things happen, and our story then leaves New York and then goes to Brazil, a fictional town that we invented, me and the artist Dante Luiz, and that's when things get really spooky and interesting.
What was your have you been to Brazil?
I have not, but I'm dying to go to Brazil.
So were you inspired are you a big coffee person?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge coffee person. I came to coffee late, so I have the fire of a new convert. Like you meet someone who's turned to some religion like in adulthood, and they're a little too much. So when I got into became a professional cartoonist, I realized I needed to be awake like a lot more than I was, and I didn't drink coffee beforehand. So I went from like 0 to 3 cups a day, like real fast. So I've since kind of walked that back a bit. So now I'm at like 2 a day. But yeah, I love coffee, and I have no regrets and no apologies.
And so, what is your favorite type of coffee?
There's this coffee supplier in Vancouver where I live, that's called Cafa del Cafe, and I don't know where they get this coffee from because they won't tell me. But they're like, they like roast it and they do all the stuff to it, and it's like this awesome dark roast, amazing coffee that I I've got the grinder and I've got the espresso machine, and I just like every morning I have this like ritual with this coffee, and I love it. It's good. I would say a dark roast.
How much research did you have to do for this book? Like having it set in a country you haven't been in about coffee production, like it seems like a lot to take on.
Yeah, it was a lot. So the original plan was to go to Brazil and spend time there. I did have an ace in a hole in that Dante Luiz, the artist, the awesome artist on this, lives in Brazil, and which was part of a big reason why it worked so well. It was just perfect. So when time constraints came and I couldn't make it, it was awesome having Dante on the ground, Dante and his wife, who acted as our cultural sort of consultant, sort of making sure things looked right and things felt right, and double checking the script to make sure that it was like accurate. But yeah, a lot of way too much research into coffee production and how coffee shops operate and run, how to harvest beans, roast beans. It was
That's
a lot.
awesome. I'm a coffee snob. Third wave coffee is my jam, so I'm very excited to read your book.
Awesome.
Is there anyone on here that doesn't drink coffee?
I'm off coffee now.
Oh, boo, boo.
Get anxiety. I get anxiety. I can't help it.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, my heart pounds so fast if I were to have coffee.
That's the good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I work in a coffee shop, and I would have like 10 of them a day, like because I could just make whatever I wanted, and I was super into it. And then around the time I hit 40, I'm like, my guts just couldn't take it anymore. I had to switch over to tea. I miss it so much. If I go on holiday with my wife, we usually have coffee, and I always pay for it physically. But yeah, I miss it. It's gonna be hard to read your book.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. I don't want people to be uncomfortable. I also wanted a sort of a through line in the book, as sort of undercurrent, is how the effects of caffeine on the body are very much like the effects of falling in love, and wanted that to be a very integral part of the book. So, yeah. So if you guys aren't drinking coffee, it's like falling in love every day.
Yeah, that makes sense because when I drink coffee right now, I myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that
which is
that ill feeling.
Which is also how I feel when I fall in love. So.
Yeah.
Your heart just falls out of you. It's great.
Yeah. Sorry, Chip.
I'm just trying to think like, is this? Am I gonna have to flag this for Comic-Con for adult conversation? Remember, when you're sitting at the panel, they have the there might be kids in the room,
Mm-hmm.
So we just has anyone had that civet coffee? I haven't had any of that. What's it like? So the civet coffee is where they feed the coffee bean or the cherry to a cat, goes to the digestive tract and comes out the other end. So what's it like?
It's super smooth. It's a really smooth cup of coffee.
It's really worth it though. I mean, you're eating cat coffee,
Pretty much.
Drinking it rather.
Yeah.
They should write that on the bag. Yeah. Coffee.
You've got a Crema Angel Catbird crossover just sitting right there.
Oh my goodness! Thank you. I'm gonna give you. What am I gonna give you?
Coffee.
Coffee. I'm gonna give you some cat coffee, or some animal's gonna shout out the coffee. I'll say cat, but all yours. Bags of it.
Fantastic.
Oh man, where did we go from there? I just don't even know. How do you top that? I feel so. Yeah, wow. Claudia, do you draw and color Lost in Planet Earth?
Yes, I did. I did both.
So what's that like? When you're both drawing and coloring the same book?
Well, it's for me it's easier because I get to do whatever I want. So in this case, what I wanted to do with colors was to make it sort of artificial, in a sense, with ton of blue and very not organic. Like the colors are not there to be organic. They're there just to make you feel like you're at the doctor's office. So the idea that I had, it was very easy to just put it in the book since I'm doing the whole thing.
Do you feel like you're faster when you're drawing and coloring? Do you know like what you can leave out when you're drawing the page and what you can put in coloring?
Yeah, it's easier to, for example, there's a ton of scenes where where, like there's a nebula, or there's like this beautiful sky over the characters, and I don't want to mess with it when I'm inking or anything. So I just leave it blank, and I'm gonna add it later. Oh, that's a problem for future Claudia. Great. And then future Claudia comes, and then just a job, because that's what I do. I think it's more organic for me. That's the way I like to work, really.
That's cool. That's cool. Is there anyone else who prefers to draw and color?
That's all I've ever done. Like when I work on sex criminals, I color my own work. I've never had anyone else color me. It would just be weird, I think, at this point. Because yeah, it's like you have your shortcuts and you kind of know what you're going to take care of at the color stage, and I would just feel guilt leaving that to someone else. And also, I like that phase a lot, because like that's when things just feel like it comes together. Like
what about deadlines? Doing both those jobs? It seems. I mean, Elizabeth colored our book, and it was a lot.
Yeah, no, I blow all the deadlines. I have a color flatter who Becca Kinsey, who takes care of blocking in everything, which makes it a lot quicker. Claudia, I don't know if you have anyone who does that with you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I got this friend who just she knows. She, like, I've had different flatters in different projects, and I have this friend who just knows what I want, and she just does the things that I the way I prefer, and that's easier for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like I think
quicker.
Most color flatters, what they do is when they lay down the color, it's always very wild colors. Like the faces will be all green, just so you can select them all and change them to what you want. They don't want to influence your choices. But after you work with someone for a while, like Becca on Sex Criminals, she just knows what the apartment looks like based on what my finals have been before, and she knows what the characters look like. So it really cuts down the amount of time it takes to color, for sure.
Yeah. I flatted a couple of issues like over 10 years ago, and for a friend of mine, and oh man, what a chore. Flatters are sort of the unsung heroes of the industry.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. We I recognize how much work Becca put in on Sex Criminals, so we gave her a color flatter credit in the book. And then a few issues in, she was like, "Can you take that off? Because my parents don't know I work on this book."
What?
Which is totally fair. Like it's not a title that people want associated with their Google results.
Johnny, have you, when you draw, have you drawn and colored your own book?
Not a whole book, but covers. I've been doing covers lately. I'll color those. But I've been trying to do a book that I draw and color, and I thought I had one recently that I was gonna do, but I just get too much anxiety about blowing deadlines, and I can't do it. I don't have the iron constitution of Chip and others who could just go for it, just blow that deadline, so I haven't, but one day I hope to get there.
By the way, I think that you win the background contest that no one knew that we were having.
Huh?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, can I visit?
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is not my house. This is an Airbnb. I'm hiding in like artistic isolation. Check this out.
Holy cow!
Oh
Whoa.
my gosh.
Where is this?
All right. This is and there's my wife. She doesn't want. This is on a Gulf island in BC.
Wow.
Southern Gulf Island. So that's where I am right now.
Man.
That's cool.
Beautiful.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's
Well, we're getting close to time, so I thought that I'd just do a round robin and just ask people, why they think creator-owned comics are important. So why don't we start with Jeremy?
I think they're important because it gives us a space to kind of tell our personal truths. The story of Virtually Yours actually started with 2 white characters initially back in 2015 when I conceived the idea with Elizabeth. And over the years, I decided to change it because white people really aren't my story and I wanted to tell my own stories. So having that freedom to be able to do that opened a whole new, actually a plethora of doors narratively for Virtually Yours, which was really exciting. So to include POCs it inspired me to write a completely different story that when I started it. So I think that's the important thing.
Great. And Curt?
Yeah, this is obviously, I think, something I have really strong opinions on. I think there's such a history in comics of people generating ideas and IP for these giant corporations and intellectual property farms, and then being sort of, for lack of a better word, screwed over. It feels really important to me and for my collaborators to own 100% of the stuff we make. So if anyone is getting paid on, the movie or TV show or the lunchbox that's getting sold, it's us and not some, Z-list producer / editor, which I think has unfortunately been the way it's been traditionally. So it's like Jeremy says, the freedom sort of unprecedented, and I just really dislike the idea of other people making money off of the hard work of myself and my collaborators.
Yeah. Claudia, what about yourself?
Well, I think in my case, my particular case, I think it's been a way to have the freedom to express myself in ways I wouldn't be able to in some IP. Owning the story instead of just an IP, actually, just like I don't want to sell you a product. I want to sell. I want to tell a story. So in that particular case, that's what I think creator-owner comics are for me, telling the story. So that's it.
And Mr. Jason Loo.
Yeah, like it's pretty much what Jeremy said. Like it's like to have your own voice, but also to like focus on people of color and that's what I loved about like working on Purple Human Lizard and especially like Afterlift, like to have like a lead character that's Asian, which we rarely see in comic books, and to throw my own voice into it, which it's something that it's we don't really see in comics, and we can be a bit experimental with it too. Like I had lots of fun when I was doing like Purple Lizard, where I got to take like one, like what Purple Lizard is like an offbeat superhero series, and one issue I decided just to have him lost in the suburbs for the entire issue, and he's trying to find his way back home. And I was like, oh, this could be like a hit or miss. Like people are probably gonna hate this issue, but it turns out like people really loved it. Where he just got to meet like a lot of like interesting people, and like the pacing and like the whole story formula was just experimental compared to like what we see in mainstream comics.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with all that. Mr. Zdarsky.
Me, the Marvel sellout?
Hey, you said it, not I.
I enjoy the working for Marvel or DC, but in a lot of ways it's cheating. Like it's story cheating because you're playing off of a built-in nostalgia for the characters. You're building off the work that came before you. It's easy to create emotional resonance.
Wait, 1 second, what's going on?
Jason hates when I talk about this. But doing creator-owned work is you kind of it's up to you whether or not it works. Like you have to create everything from the ground up. You have to figure out the world, figure out the feeling, the characters, the POV of it all, and it's scary. And I think it's why a lot of like creators who do work for the major companies find it hard to transition over because it's the equivalent of like being faced with a blank page, right? Like, oh, where do I start? How do I do this? Well, whereas working for Marvel, you're never faced with a blank page. You're faced with like 70, 80 years of the history of these characters to play with. So I like the challenge of it. On something like this too, I really enjoyed being able to tell a complete story. One of my friends who worked for Marvel for 5-6 years told me that working for a company like that is like always writing a second act because that's how those books operate. You never have the final act, right? And that's a shame as a storyteller to not be able to like tell a complete story. And with something like Afterlift, like we consciously set out like this isn't something that is going to have a sequel. This is going to be its own thing, and we're going to tell it as it is, and walk away from it and see if it stands on its own. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Johnny Christmas, tell us why you think creator-owned comics. What do you think about creator-owned comics?
Creator-owned comics are the only way I've ever wanted to do it. Like ever since I was a teen, it kind of started there with when I first kind of after like falling in love with a lot of Marvel and DC, I found my way into creator-owned comics and comic books rather, and really enjoyed what the creators were doing there, and the stories were so unique. I mean, and that's I guess the point of it. Like some stories just don't belong with the big two, and they can only live in a creator-owned space. And some, they could live in the big two sort of space, but they just choose not to. So I've only worked primarily in creator-owned, and that's a choice. There's a few notable exceptions where like I thought it would be fun to do so with someone else's IP, but for the most part, it's always creator-owned, and that's the way I do it, and that's the way I'm gonna do it for the foreseeable. I think probably forever. So it's awesome being able to do this here at ComiXology and telling a story like Crema that wouldn't have a home in at Big Two, and we could tell the story exactly the way Dante and I, exactly the way we wanted to tell it, without having to adhere to, like we gave ourselves rules, and it's really important to do that. I think most of the creators on the panel would agree that it's more exciting to give yourself boundaries and trying to adhere to the rules of romance and horror in the same piece, and having all this awesome research into coffee and Brazil, but not letting the story be driven by the research. And all of those are choices that Dante and I got to make. We got to make that, and we had an awesome editor at La Half Craft Me I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, helping us along the way. And but ultimately, it was down to us. And that's something that creator-owned comics affords you. And I'm just, I love it. We're spoiled in this space. So yeah, that's why creator-owned comics, always.
Well, great. Thank you, Mr. Christmas. I just love saying your name.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say it a lot. Anyway, thanks to all the panelists for spending some time on the Zoom video with us. And I hope everyone out there watching enjoyed this. And you can get all these great comics, Afterlift, Crema, Youth, Lost on Planet Earth, and Virtually Yours on ComiXology.com. And if you are a ComiXology Unlimited subscriber, you will get it with your subscription. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can get all these for no additional cost with your subscription. And if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, you can get it with your subscription too. So you can get all these great books at no additional cost if you're currently subscribing to any one of those 3 services. So, so go and jump in. So thanks everybody, and everybody said bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Buy our books.
Good seeing you.